We're back with another market open live stream. We are here to make the markets great again. Guys, the market is doing some crazy things. Trump is doing some crazy things. And so we're going to talk about everything that's going on. And I mean, gold, we spoke about gold yesterday. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you've checked the charts, but it has crashed an insane 3.45%. GM reported this morning. Airbnb is doing some weird stuff, but Coca-Cola also reported earnings. We have CPI in a few days. Whole bunch of stuff is going on. So we're going to break it all down. As always, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat and I'll take a look at them every once in a while. So I want to go through the Pip Munch email this morning, and we're gonna look at the charts. We're gonna do all of that. So let me first give the high-level overview of what's going on in TradingView. Bitcoin's down 1.5%. Don't worry, I already wiped my tears when I saw that. But gold, oh my goodness, 3.46%. It is just absolutely nasty. Pound yen, a little bit of a rally there. We're seeing a pretty, well, actually, I was going to say we're seeing, if pound yen's dropping, we're seeing the risk off move. That's not happening. S&P is still flat, but the market's not open yet. Opens in half an hour. The DXY is rallying a little bit here. You can see on the 4 hour, we pull up the 1 hour. We've got a little bit of a rally to the upside, but nothing crazy. So really that headline mover, 3.6% on gold is absolutely wild, and we'll break that down. So what is on the menu for today? Apple mooned yesterday. Apple had a massive, massive day, and Bezos broke the internet. As you probably are aware, unless you live under a rock, AWS was down yesterday and tons of stuff was impacted. And yet the market didn't even care. Amazon stock soared or not soared, but it climbed like 1%. Earnings mania, there's tons and tons and tons of earnings this week that are really important. Tesla reports tomorrow. Tesla's going to be a huge one. Starbucks CEO is just full of it. Barron Trump worth $150 million. We'll take a look at that. And consumers are getting more pessimistic about the job market. Yesterday was a good day, though. Yesterday, the market rallied. Things were optimistic. Once again, the Trump taco trade is doing wonderful things. The market just doesn't buy it anymore. That, these tariffs, all this stuff. And we have to talk about that. Where it's going to come up. But November 1st is the deadline. And Trump said something crazy yesterday, and the market still rallied, which shows the taco trade, it's not as strong as it was before. The market's not even dropping on these headlines. So interesting. All that to say, things are looking good except for Bitcoin now. It's a good day yesterday, but it's dropping now. Apple carries the market. So why did the market climb? It was because of Apple almost single-handedly. It surged 4% on posts, or it posted its first record high of 2025. It's now up 55% since its April bottom, which is crazy. That's $1.4 trillion in market cap since April. In Apple alone, the AI revolution is in full swing. I said this yesterday. I said it last week. The entire market is relying on AI right now. Like I said yesterday, we broke down that GDP report where GDP would have only been 0.1% growth if you took out data centers. So the entire market is relying on AI. And when things look good, I mean, the entire market rallies as a result. And that's what we saw with Apple. The Dow ripped 500 points. The iPhone giant 55%. Yeah, I don't know why we repeated that. Oh no, it's because I was reading that. Loop Capital also upgraded Apple to a buy. Listen, Apple, it's a blue chip company, it performs well, but here's the deal. They haven't innovated in like 10 years, 15 years. So I'm not really that interested in the stock. But you have to pay attention to this. I don't care if you trade Forex. I don't care if you trade corn futures. You have to be looking at the big stocks and how they perform, especially their earnings report. That's why you got to pay attention to Tesla coming up, because it's going to move the entire index. And if it can move the index, it's going to have an impact on what it is that you're trading. I don't care. Full stop. I don't care what it is that you trade. So this was a classic big tech saves the day energy. Small caps and regionals are still coughing. Remember, the small regional banks, we're going to have to wait for their earnings to see how shaky they are. But sentiment is improving, which is good. As long as mega caps keep leading, the bulls still have control. Let's take a look at what Trump did because it paints a larger picture of what is going on and how the market is reacting to what he says. On the global stage, the US signed an $8.5 billion critical minerals deal with Australia, a rare bit of cooperation, while Trump simultaneously threatened to jack Chinese tariffs up 155%. So good deal with big deal. Oh, it's the best deal. We're gonna have the biggest deals you've ever seen. It's a good deal with Australia. It's good for the economy. It's good for market sentiment as a whole. However, Trump said yesterday at 4:44 p.m. that he may increase Chinese tariffs to 155%. That is the big headline piece. And the futures market didn't really react. Even now, futures, you come back over here, right? The S&P is flat, minus 0.09%. Nothing crazy whatsoever. So normally, if you go back to April, why did the market tank in April? It tanked because of the tariff concerns, because of all the tweets, because of all of the back and forth. Where this headline didn't move the market. So remember, November 1st is the deadline for a trade agreement between the US and China. November 1st, you got to mark your calendar, which means we're probably not going to have any news regarding a trade deal prior to that. And even November 1st, the can will probably get kicked down the road further, which I think will be good for markets. But this is also showing that the market is starting to call Trump's bluff. And I think we have to keep this in mind in our back pocket as we move forward, as we move closer to that November 1st deadline. Okay, so normally headlines like this would send markets into a tailspin, but this time crickets. Translation, the market's over the taco trade. So the Munch take, immediate reaction is a huge sentiment shift. It means traders are growing numb to geopolitical drama and more focused on growth plays. Okay. Amazon broke the internet. Nobody cared. As I mentioned, the stock rallied 1%, which is kind of wild considering the massive outage. Fortnite, Coinbase, Venmo, Shopify, Snapchat, all sorts of stuff. Even Shopify had massive outages and it climbed 4%. I didn't keep the chart in there, but there was tons of Shopify stores that were down. Okay. So that's Amazon. Lark Funding, if you guys are here because of the Lark Funding Discord or whatever it is, I've been running the company for 3 years. This is the only thing I have to sell you. If you're looking to take a prop firm challenge, we have objectively the best challenges in the industry, no consistency rules, no news restrictions, and we're moving away from discount codes. I'm so tired of discount codes. I'm sure many of you guys are too. 40%, 30%. It sucks if you sign up for a challenge at 20% and the next month is 30%. And you're like, wait a second, if it can go on 30% discount, then maybe it wasn't actually worth, maybe the company gypped me a little bit. So I'm tired of them. You're tired of them. The industry is tired of them. At least traders that want to build a career, like the serious traders, are tired of them. There's other traders who just want to save a dollar, and that's fine. You can go with a prop firm that will deny your payout. But yeah, October 10, last 10% discount of 2025. Next month, November, is 5%, and then nothing as of 2026. Okay, so that's that. Earnings mania. This is big. Earnings this week. So to give you a broad overview, a little extra reminder of where we are. You always have to think, okay, where in the big picture are we? Big picture is that the economy is starting to show signs of softening. Okay, we're not talking full-blown recession yet, but things are softening a little bit. The labor market's softening, which with the government shutdown, we're not getting those labor reports, which, is not great. But we're starting to see signs of softening. And as a result, the Federal Reserve is starting to cut interest rates. Okay. It's already baked in for what are we? October. It's already baked in for December. It's going to have another 25 basis point cuts at the next two meetings. What that means is inflation is going to start heating up. I don't think crazy. Okay. I don't think it's going to be like 2021, 2022. But when you cut interest rates, stocks in the short term skyrocket. the dollar crashes in the short term, right? If you get a real recession, right, those things will, reverse. But in the short term, that is typically what happens, and that's kind of where we are in the big picture. And so that's why we have to pay attention to earnings, because earnings will give us a leading indicator of how companies are doing and therefore how the economy is doing and what the Fed will do. So you don't have to trade Netflix. You don't have to own Netflix. But these massive companies that can move the entire index, you have to pay attention to how they are doing, because if they're not doing well, that is a sign of a cracking economy. Okay. And then you can adjust your trades accordingly, your investments accordingly. So, Netflix revenue is expected around $11.5 billion, up 17% year over year, with eyes on ad tier growth and subscriber gains after topping 310 million last quarter. Okay. The real question is, can they keep growing faster than my wife's just one more episode habit? Okay. So year to date, Netflix is up 40%. They're today after the market closes. Okay, so Netflix could absolutely move the market, so keep an eye on that one. Coca-Cola this morning. This gives us a read on consumer strength and pricing power. If we actually just hop over to CNBC for a moment and see what they are doing. If you guys are here, I appreciate it. I just took a look at the chat. Morning, hello, Alex, PM. Appreciate you guys being here. Again, if you have any questions, just drop them and I'll get to it once we're through the email. So Coca-Cola tops earnings and revenue estimates, but says demand for drinks is still soft. Interesting. They beat Wall Street's expectations for its third quarter earnings and revenue. Also reiterated its full year forecast. A company's unit case volume rose 1%. Okay, interesting. There's like some bug on CNBC, which is super annoying, where like it just glitches out and you can't see the rest of it. So that's really annoying. Let me pull up the stock. I can't go on Google right now because I have like an app blocker so that I don't get distracted. So I need to use, different sources here. Okay, so the stock's rallying a little bit actually. So at close was 68.44 and we've rallied 3% to 70.50. So the market's thinking that's pretty positive earnings. So overall, that's good there. Let's come back over to this guy. Okay, so that's Coca-Cola. Tesla is a big one. Okay, Tesla is going to be tomorrow after market close. Analysts see $26 billion in revenue and falling margins. EV demand's cooling off. Remember, for EVs, it's not all about, but a huge impact on EVs is the government incentives, right? The government credits, which I don't know what's going on in the States right now. I know Canada isn't offering a lot of the EV credits anymore. I know they changed a lot in the States. I don't think they're offering the same type of EV credits that they were. So demand's cooling off as a result, but all eyes are going to be on the robo-taxis and Optimus and Elon's next mic drop. Okay, so robo-taxis will be a big one. What kind of revenue or what kind of usage are they getting out of the robo taxis? Are people using them? Are people liking them? And how much have their margins fell? The company's only up 18% year to date. Okay, there's a lot of channels on YouTube that are obsessed with Tesla and will do way deeper dives. So, I'm sure you could find something like that. If you're interested in Tesla, let me know. Maybe I can do like a deeper dive tomorrow or Thursday after the earnings. Intel is Thursday. Intel is up 88% year to date, mostly because Trump is buying the stock, has bought the stock. They now have a 10% stake in the company, the US government, which I don't know how I feel about. I feel like that's what communist countries do, right? They take back the means of production. I haven't thought it fully through, but I don't know exactly how I feel about, the government buying stakes in a whole bunch of companies. And once the administration is over, if the Democrats win next or regardless of who wins next, how is that going to impact these companies, right? Because right now you've got the Trump administration that, feels and acts a certain way towards these companies. If you get the Democrats that come in and they have a completely different mindset, like 10% is a large stake in the company. So I just wonder long term for the stability of a company, if you want something to get destroyed, just have the government be involved. So 88% year to date. So really nice. So we'll see what they do. So our take is the markets are still risk on, but sentiment hinges on these reports. Remember, these reports can move the entire index. If they can move the index, they're going to be able to move a USD CAD. They're going to be able to move pound yen. They're going to be able to move whatever it is that you trade. It hinges on market sentiment, and these are the things that are dictating market sentiment. So it's really important that that you pay attention. Just taking a look at the chat PM, EV credits canceled in the US and Canada. This, in my opinion, is positive for Tesla. So the only ones that can stay profitable without credits. That's a really, really good point. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I know I'm in Canada, so I know they were canceled. I saw a lot of headlines about the US, so they're canceled there too. And yeah, I didn't really realize that they are the only ones that can be profitable without the credits. They're definitely priced a little bit higher, so I would imagine that their margins are a little bit better. But that's interesting. That does make sense to me. I appreciate it. Let's take a look at what's going on with these stocks. Starbucks, I just have to say I hate Starbucks. My wife would be like, "Oh, it's pumpkin spice latte season. Can we go?" We get there. "Oh, can I just have, the little egg bites for breakfast, these two little egg bites?" $15 later. $15 later, and it's not even good. I hate Starbucks with an absolute passion. I just hate it. Their coffee's not even good. I worked as a barista for 2 years. I hate Starbucks. That's my morning rant. So, Starbucks was down 1% yesterday, but their CEO, Brian Nicole was in the news recently because they said that they are, this a literal quote, Starbucks, excuse me, Starbucks is all in on AI. Dude, you sell coffee. What are you talking about? Just serve your coffee, make it better, make it faster. It was so stupid. So their stock is, hold on, let me pull it up. S, but again, I can't pull up Google because I've got these, you know, here, tap instead. Okay, year to date, good. 8% down year to date. Good. This is what I want to see. If it goes lower, they'll make a change. And that's what we need. So 1% yesterday, but yeah, down 8% year to date. So Starbucks, no good. I don't know what you're talking about, all in on AI. That's just crazy. Beyond Meat, this one is crazy, guys. Beyond Meat, we need to keep a very close eye on Beyond Meat. It exploded yesterday, 127%, not a typo. And it is a short squeeze. Okay. So short interest sitting at 64% of all tradable shares. So this means that out of if 100 shares are available to trade, 64% of those shares are have an open short position. Okay, so it's giving GameStop energy 127%, which is just insane. Listen, I hate to admit it, this is very embarrassing for me, but I was vegan for 2 years. I ate Beyond Meat. I didn't, I bought into the propaganda that, seed oil filled fake burgers will be better for you than real meat. It's nonsense, but I like to make money. So maybe Beyond Meat. Let me pull up the stock here. This one is crazy. So it is down 62% year to date. But if you go over 5 years, it is down 99%. It is a crazy stock. Yesterday, 128%, 5 days, 112%. So is that, 59, oh my goodness, 59 cents a share. This thing during COVID was huge. This thing went up to, that was pre-COVID, 2021, $178, and it dropped to 60 cents. That is massive. So honestly, again, I'm not calling this a GameStop situation, but keep an eye on it because it's still only a buck 47. It could be real interesting. And if GameStop gets in on this, GameStop, they know how to move a stock. They know how to move a stock. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Beyond Meat. Again, I don't want to be owning the stock long term. But if something's going to get pumped, I want to be paying attention to it. Okay. SEMrush is having an identity crisis. So SEMrush is really popular with the SEO. Well, they do SEO, but they were really popular at one point. They're now down 37% year to date after trying to pivot into AI. And again, we're going to see, I think, more companies having this problem. You can see the stock not looking so good here. And they're trying to pivot. And it goes to show, these companies that rely on Google searches, more people are using AI. Look, I can't even use Google this morning. I have a freaking app blocker and I'm using Perplexity. I'm using AI. So SEMrush, another stock that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. And gold, doing his best Usain Bolt impression. This was sent out at 4:03 a.m. This did not age well because gold is down 3.5%. So that's looking nasty. Okay. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. We're going to look at a couple of links, a couple of charts, and then I'll look to see what is going on in the chat. Tuesday motivation. This was, I spoke directly to this trader. Insane. 2 accounts, $6,400, and it was a pair of 100K accounts. And he's in Canada. So for me, that was pretty cool. Again, I have to remind myself that, because we've processed hundreds of payouts, it's sort of routine. But I remember the feeling of when I got my first payout. It's literally life changing. And this money is going to, pay bills, pay mortgage, pay a rent, pay food, like literally life changing. Okay, pre-market fuel. This one's crazy. Barron Trump, our man Barron, what is he? 7'1", 6'10"? I don't know. He's tall. Look at this. Youngest self-made centimillionaire, 19-year-old Barron Trump, reportedly now has an estimated net worth of $150 million. If you were 19 years old and you had $150 million, what would you do? I'm thinking of my 19-year-old self, $150 million, I wouldn't even know what to do with that kind of money. Now, the real question is, how did he make this money? There's been some weird sort of crypto trades that took place, just before, a certain somebody's father sent out a couple of, tweets about the market. So who knows exactly how this guy made, $150 million at 19? Insider trading, perhaps. Who knows? But pretty, pretty insane. I mean, what are even the comments? America's woman billionaires, who cares? That's kind of mad. Self-made. You understand the word self-made? If he took the trades himself, I'm sure he's self-made. Okay, let's come back here. Trump and Zelensky met on Friday. Yeah. So Zelensky wanted some long-range missiles, some Tomahawks or something, and Trump said no. So I think that's good for maybe ending the war. I mean, you're either on one side, you're on Zelensky's side of, let's just keep sending money. We need more money. We need to attack. We need to fight back, or for peace. So hopefully peace does come. This one's not really a stock, but Liquid Death might have just made a massive FTC violation. This one really viral online, which is quite interesting. I don't drink Liquid Death, but it's popular. They went back and forth. I don't know, Liquid Death and somebody, Tim Cast, who is some guy on Twitter. But he said here, in return, I would have done the right thing and given $1 million to charity. So Liquid Death, they're supposed to donate like 10 cents or a cent, or they're supposed to donate something that's literally on the can of profit to charity. But they said they're not profitable. So they haven't donated anything. But in the eyes of the FTC, it's not really clear. 10% of the profits from every can sold is donated to help kill plastic pollution. So, that one's kind of interesting. FTC might be coming after Liquid Death. Consumers are getting more pessimistic about the job market. I want to take a look at this one. And the U.S. government might end this week, so that's good. Take a look at this. Again, this is kind of a leading indicator of how people are feeling. U.S. consumers are becoming more pessimistic about the job market. Americans' perceived probability of losing the job over the next 5 years jumped to 22% in October, the second highest since the 2020 pandemic. 5 years. Dude, I don't know what I'm doing 5 days from now. Like, for me to predict, what my job's going to be like in 5 years is... This now makes the third largest reading since the 2008 financial crisis. By comparison, this percentage was 17% at the beginning of the year. So not great. People are feeling a little bit pessimistic. Like I said earlier, big picture, we're starting to see these cracks. It doesn't mean, we're going right into a session. We'll see what those Fed cuts actually do to the economy and inflation as well. But we're starting to see those signs of, some cracks. The U.S. job market is dead, and the U.S. government not only lying about it, they're incentivizing corporations, laying off Americans, and replacing them with insourced and outsourced Indians. Ooh, very controversial. So that is what's going on there. Do you guys have any questions? I will pull up the charts to see if I'm looking at any interesting opportunities, but gold still down 3.4%. Bitcoin, I bought a few $1,000s of Bitcoin last week. um, at 106 ish. So that is what's going on with Bitcoin. Again, looking at the chat, no questions. Let me know what you guys are looking at. Any questions? Any of that fun stuff. It's always nice to not just talk to myself at times. But Bitcoin 1.75. Let me clean up the chart here. Yeah, this is the 1 hour. I mean, yeah, there's definitely a nice sell. This was definitely a fib retracement that we bounced from. Probably form this new little trend line right here. You break retest of that. This green line across this thick one is the daily 200. So it's huge. I spoke about this last week and you can see we haven't had like a clear break from it. Yeah, we broke it here, but then we went right back above it. And now we've retested it from the top coming down. So I'm just really want a clear movement either to the upside or the downside of from this 200-day moving average. Personally, I would love Bitcoin to drop because that means I can buy more. And again, it's we're not far at all from all-time highs, but to buy now, it's not like it's 16% gain back to all-time highs. Like I always say, my investment thesis is that I don't want history to have to be made in order to make money. So do I think Bitcoin's going to 150K? Yes. Do I think it's going to 200K? Yes. Not this year. Probably not next year. Eventually, long term. I'm a very long term thinker. So yes, I think it's going to hit those levels eventually, but I don't want to have to rely on that in order to make money. So if the S&P is going to generate 8% a year, whereas we're already at a 16% return to proven levels, I'm much more interested in buying Bitcoin than I am the S&P, which is at all-time highs, and I therefore need history to be made in order to make money. But that's just my perspective. It's worked quite well for me. So, am I buying Bitcoin at this level? I bought a little bit last week, about 2% lower than where we are now. So again, a 16% return, not bad. Rates are still coming down. Fiat's going to zero. So I think long term, I'm very bullish on Bitcoin, and I think it's not necessarily a bad time to buy. Not financial advice, but that's only if you have a very long term horizon. Bitcoin always goes higher than people think, but the drawdowns are also higher than people think. I think that's going to stabilize a little bit because we have more institutional money right now. So the upside is going to be less, and then the drawdowns also going to be less. But maybe you're a boomer and you prefer gold, which is totally fine. Getting absolutely destroyed. I didn't want to move those guys. Getting absolutely destroyed today, 3.5% on the daily. This isn't this isn't telling us very much. I mean, you could draw a fib from here and go for like the 23.6, which is not too bad at 41.30. But yeah, gold is an interesting one. Yeah, here on the lower time frame, you definitely have to like snipe something. Even now, we're getting a little bit of a support movement from here. But yeah, from a technical standpoint, gold is difficult. From a fundamental standpoint, gold is very, very easy. It was like the easiest trade of 2025. Obviously, in hindsight, S&P down 0.10. The market's opening in 2 minutes. Again, we'll have to see what those earnings do. Good. It was good for GM actually. I did want to talk about the GM stock. GM reported this morning really strong earnings. And you can see here that we were trading yesterday $57 and we've climbed up to 64. So a 10% climb in pre-market hours, which is really, really good. Current stock highlights latest earnings, better than expected, posting $44.26 billion in revenue, which is slightly below expectations, but their earnings per share well above. Adjusted EBIT stock reaction following the report, GM shares jumped 8 to 10% in pre-market hours, and investors welcomed the stronger guidance. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Then we have gold here, just simple profit taking on that one. So let's see what's going on Twitter. Let's see if people are angry with anything that I posted. This one I posted this morning, what I think is a good mindset perspective to have, right? Most people work 8 hours to make 150 to 200 bucks, but trading is different. You can make $500 in 5 minutes and still feel like it's nothing. And that's why most traders never make money. It's all a mental game. Shift your mindset. I think there's a lot to say about that. You kind of get immune to the figures in trading. I never have physical cash, never. And so when I have 50 bucks on me, it feels so much more real. Like I don't want to spend them like, oh my gosh, this is real money. Whereas trading is just, numbers on a screen. You kind of become immune to it. But I don't think that's good. It's good in a sense that if it removes the emotions out of it, but it also removes the positive emotions from it. So there's definitely something to be said there. Let's see. Oh, look at that. A Lark funding post. We'll like that. Da, da, da. I just looked up the numbers again. 3.5% of all Shopify stores ever reach 1 million in revenue. Yeah, don't be fooled by screenshots. Things are tough. Just an Amazon aiming to replace 600,000 jobs with robots by 2033. That's crazy. That'll be good for margins, but not good for people. Just in over $250 million in crypto long positions liquidated in the last 24 hours. Yeah, that probably makes sense. Almost a 2% drop in Bitcoin. Yes, Tesla has lowered lease pricing by up to 23% in the US. New starting lease prices in the US, Model 3, and the Model 3 is so ugly. I have a Model Y. The Model 3 is ugly. I'm sorry. Cybertruck though is sick. If my wife would let me, well, no, it's too expensive. I don't want to spend that much money on a car, but the Cybertruck, that doesn't make any sense. There's no way the Cybertruck is $700 a month. There's no way. There's no way that the lease is $700 a month. There's no way. There's no way that that has to be with like a huge down payment or something. And I mean, if you're leasing it, why are you putting a down payment? That's crazy. There's no way. There's no way. I swear, there's no way. What else do we have going on here? Da, 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 da. The lion does not concern himself with a little stabbing pain in his chest after consuming 800 milligrams of caffeine. That's funny. That's really funny. The average price of gasoline in the US has fallen. Yeah, gas is dropping a lot. I have a Tesla though, so it doesn't really help me that much. But it is the lowest since 2020, so that's good. That is really, really good. What else do we have here? Let's jump over to Lark Funding. We'll have more market stuff over here. Argentina's peso has fallen to a new all-time low against the US dollar and has now collapsed 99.8% since 2009. I was just talking to somebody who it was a member at my church, and he was saying he went somewhere in Europe. We were talking about Bitcoin, and I mentioned how he saw like a Bitcoin ATM somewhere, and he was kind of surprised, but the fees to use it were massive. And 2 years ago, I went to Eastern Europe, and there were Bitcoin ATMs everywhere. There were Bitcoin coffee shops. It was everywhere, and I think it's because in those countries they've been more exposed to just the ruthless damage that hyperinflation causes. Argentina, unfortunately, being an example of that. And so I think we're slower to adopt Bitcoin in the US because we think, or not the US and Canada. I'm Canadian, because we think we're immune from all of these things, but we're not. Okay, we're absolutely not. The dollar's having the worst year it's had in decades. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Leveraged equity ETF launches are skyrocketing. This could be a good top signal. Number of leveraged equity ETFs. Yeah, leverage. As Charlie Munger said, liquor, ladies, and leverage, the three ways to go broke. An insider with a 100% win rate just opened BTC and ETH longs worth $255 million ahead of the Fed meeting today. There's a Fed meeting today. Hold on. There's a Fed meeting today? What are we? What's the date? The 21st? No. They're hosting a payments innovation conference. Yeah, that's a nothing burger. The FOMC policy meeting is set for October 28th and 29th, and that's when markets are expecting a 25 basis point interest rate cut. So I don't know what this guy's smoking. Yeah, he's smoking something. Trading demo, trading live. That's so funny. What else? Successfully took down half the internet. Yeah. So that is everything that I wanted to cover this morning. The charts, again, we're having big drops across the board. The S&P is about to open, or it has opened. We'll see what happens there. Bitcoin's down. I'm going to be keeping an eye on, the buy button. Gold's getting destroyed, but we have those earnings. We have to keep an eye on those earnings. November 1st is the deadline for the trade agreement between the U.S. and China. Probably a nothing burger, probably another taco trade. And that's what's going on with that. So I appreciate you guys being here. We'll be back tomorrow morning. I really, really like doing these. Probably the same time. And I'll see you tomorrow. If it's morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, have a great day, guys. Appreciate you being here. Peace.